Hi there, I'm Nafisa Latic. A very warm welcome to Across the Balkans. Kosovo stepped up security measures around critical infrastructure after an explosion on a water canal in the Serb-majority north last week. The aqueduct sends water to Kosovo's two main power plants. Prime Minister Albin Kurti said the blast was a terrorist attack by gangs directed from Serbia. But Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic called the accusations baseless. The explosion has worsened already tense relations between Belgrade and Pristina, as Adam Amunu reports.
This is the destruction a blast caused to a canal that provides water, vital for Kosovo's electricity supply. The explosion happened last week in the north of the country, temporarily cutting water and the power supply to some areas. However, electricity was restored by Saturday morning.
Sulmi është kryer nga profesionist, është sulmi I radhës, kriminal e terrorist, që ne besojmë se vjen nga bandat e dirigjuara dhe të orkestruara nga Serbia, e cila ka edhe interesin, edhe gatishmërinë, edhe aftësinë për të shkaktuar sulme e dëmtime të këtilla, në rastin konkret duke përdorur një sasi të madhe të eksplozivit në një nyje kyçe ku riparimi është I vështirë.
Several people have been arrested, and Kosovo police say they have seized weapons and ammunition. They also claim a black bag with around 20 kilograms of explosives was placed on a section of the aqueduct in Zubin Potok.
We also found uniforms with patches and insignia from Russian Federation.
Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic described Kosovo's allegations against his country as baseless and slammed Kurti for exploiting the incident.
Beograd I Serbia pojma nisu imali, niti bi nam palo na pamet, a pokazat ću vam I dokazat ću vam I zašto sve. I niko ne mora da brine, ne postoji ni jedna stvar, jer ne možete da pokažete I dokažete ni na koji način nešto što ne postoji. Kao ozbiljna država mi se nismo bavili optužbama I nismo rekli taj napad je, ja to neću ni danas reći, direktno naredio Kurti. Istraga će pokazati, jer I mi provodimo našu istragu, naravno. Imamo određene sumnje, ali će istraga konačno pokazati ko je naredio.
Serbian Foreign Minister Marko Đurić also suggested on X, formerly known as Twitter, that Kosovo could be behind the blast. He called for an international investigation. The European Union and the United States strongly denounced the explosion and called for the attackers to be brought to justice.
The United States supports a comprehensive investigation. We've offered our full support to the authorities of Kosovo in this investigation. We think it's important that those responsible are identified and held accountable.
But until this happens, the people in northern Kosovo are left to bear the brunt of the disruption, which has lessened because of ongoing repair work and the canal operating at lower capacity. The situation in this part of Kosovo remains tense, as it was here in September last year that armed clashes erupted between local gunmen and police, leaving one police officer and 3 attackers dead. NATO has increased its presence in the area in the last few months, but the damaged canal has now become yet another issue for Belgrade and Pristina to overcome. Adam Amunu, Across the Balkans.
Lots of reaction to that blast in the region. So let's go straight to our panel to get more. From Belgrade, we have Stevan Gajic. He is a political scientist at the Institute of European Studies. And from Tirana, we have Agon Malici, a political analyst who focuses on the Balkans. Thank you both for being our guests. Agon, what evidence has Kosovo authorities provided to back the claim by Prime Minister Kurti that this attack was carried out by gangs directed by Serbia? We know the investigations have been taking place, and we know there have been several arrests.
Well, so far, Kosovo's security institutions have mostly sort of rounded up suspects. But, you know, in the north, there are these entities like the Civil Protection Northern Brigade. These are known sort of structures that had operated in the past informally, security structures from Serbia, who are sort of on the list of the security institutions, and most of these have been raided. Weapons have been confiscated, and some of these people have been detained as suspects in this particular case. Now, publicly, we still haven't seen any sort of evidence linking those suspects directly to this case, but this is an ongoing investigation. And the allegations of the government are, at this point, I would say, mostly based on factors like motivation, like, previous
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to
cases.
ask you. Then why coming out right away and saying this was directed by Serbia?
Well, we had a very specific, not terrorist attack, terrorist attack, but also basically an armed insurgency a year and a half ago, which, for which Western intelligence agencies have confirmed that Serbia played a role. So, in a way, whatever happens in the north, considering the structure of the sort of ethnic structure of the population, Serbia, in a way, is, in judicial cases, you have to be sort of, you're innocent until proven guilty. In the case of Kosovo, it's mostly, Serbia is kind of considered guilty and has to be proven innocent. So the allegation is political because there's a strong dispute ongoing. There's been constant attempts, and there's clear links between some of these structures operating in the north and the Serbian government. But this is, of course, a very complex investigation, and it seems that the group that did this was highly professional. And it's unclear whether sort of the judicial facts of this can be finalized by Kosovo alone, because this will need, obviously, support from Kosovo's foreign partners, and obviously support also from Serbia, which is very difficult, I guess, to obtain.
Right. Let's bring in Stevan. Serbia also says it wants international investigation into this and calling the accusations baseless. But on the other hand, Serbian Foreign Minister Stevan Marko Đurić, he is also suggesting, on the other hand, that Kosovo regime could be behind the blast. This blame game is not good for either of the sides, right?
Well, considering which sides are we talking about? Kosovo and Metohija is under NATO's occupation since 1999, so they are the most responsible side for the security. Every single time that we had an incident, especially in the north of Kosovo and Metohija, which is predominantly inhabited by Serbs, ended up with more pressure on Serbs, with more Serbs being arrested, accused on baseless accusations, and being detained, and basically more of occupying forces. What is the result of the last 12 years is that the Brussels process has actually motivated more and more Serbs to flee Kosovo and Metohija, and it seems that this was the goal, predominantly of NATO, because no Serbs means no problems for them from their perspective. And of course, as any occupation of Kosovo and Metohija by NATO will end one day. But for the time being, I don't expect any fair investigation. I don't expect any kind of results of meaningful result from it. But what I do expect is more pressure, more arrests, and more Serbs being detained, and more Serbs being pushed to flee Kosovo and Metohija, because now we have the forces from Pristina that are constantly patrolling in the northern parts. Especially this escalated after April 2023, after the elections that was boycotted by the Serbs. So basically 3% of population that voted decided who is going to be the mayor in the four predominantly Serb municipalities in the north of Serbia's.
Right. Yeah. It's very complex issue that we cover a lot here on Across the Balkans, Agon. Let's talk about the fact that civilian infrastructure has been targeted. It impacted lives of the people in the north of Kosovo. Is it showing us how Kosovo's critical infrastructure is vulnerable to these type of attacks?
Well, absolutely. Critical infrastructure is now being targeted, particularly by Russia, in a lot of NATO countries. and there is, a clear, I would say, logical reasoning or reason to believe that Russian elements might be also behind this. I mean, this narrative that this is the NATO-occupied territory is precisely a Russian narrative. Any suggestion that this could be motivated by Kosovo government to attack such a vital piece of critical infrastructure is ludicrous, to be honest. This was a very strategically an attack that had a very strategic sort of mission, because it impacted it would risk to disrupt electricity supply for all of Kosovo and water supply for the whole northern part, which includes both Albanians and Serbs. Attacks on critical infrastructure mostly aim to kind of disturb psychologically the environment and sort of fuel ethnic tensions, and it's clear that these external actors, and I would say the primarily suspect here is Russia. It remains to be seen how much of the collusion has there been here between Russia and Serbia in this case. At least this is the belief in Pristina, that there is some sort of there is no reason to believe that Kosovo would target its own critical infrastructure, which impacts all citizens.
Stevan, how do you comment the fact that some of the Russian uniform symbols have been found next to explosives following the blast, Agon's remarks that Russia also is involved in this attack?
I really don't know how to comment on this, because these kind of symbols you can buy in every military shop, but insignia don't say anything. What I'm really here curious about is attacking of critical infrastructure. We had investigation by Seymour Hersh about the Nord Stream, which was attacked and destroyed by NATO. Actually, President Biden and also Victoria Nuland said that they would destroy it in advance. Actually, once Biden was standing right next to Olaf Scholz when he announced this, and that happened. So when it comes to destroying critical infrastructure, I think NATO is the expert on that. But what is really interesting is that only recently, in October, there was a unit of British engineering forces in the north of Kosovo, people who are actually experts in these kind of events. Speaking of Great Britain, in the last 2 years, they have been waging a very strong campaign against the Serbs, in particular in Kosovo and Metohija, accusing Serbs of being a disruptive element. But every single time there was an incident, what was the result and who benefited? The result was always more occupation, more Serbs fleeing, more Serbs being arrested, detained, and living.
Stevan, because I only have 20 seconds left, let me give Agon a chance to tell me what does he think about Kosovo's government approach to the Serbs living in the north.
It's been, the north has been sort of a trouble spot, a hot spot of tensions over the last couple of years. It was difficult because the structures that kind of control the territory were controlled by Serbia, but there was also elements of organized crime there. So the government had to do something to address that challenge. These structures, together with Serbian and Russian support, instigated an armed insurgency a year and a half ago. However, I think there was some elements of mistakes made in the sense that the soft element was missing in sort of reaching out to constructive elements within the Kosovo Serb community.
Right.
Yeah. But I think there's still an opportunity now with the next elections in Kosovo for the government to do that.
Stevan, Agon, thank you both for being our guests on Across the Balkans.